This is ninja shit. This is ninja shit. People get one of these deals right, they're going to make six figures. Okay, so adverse possession, what is it? Speaking specifically to the state of Florida, a lot of other states have adverse possession. Very simply put, an adverse possession is an individual is paying the property taxes on any property for 7 years. It has to be consecutive. It has to be an individual, not an entity. And they do have to file some special application with the tax collector's office. And after 7 years of paying the property taxes, if no one else shows up, they can claim a adverse possession claim on the property, which is fancy for saying they obtain title to the property, or in other words, they own it now. So yes, after 7 years, if they pay the delinquent property taxes and they are not the owner, and they do this application and they follow this process, they can file for an adverse possession and obtain title. Sometimes they may or may not have to do a quiet title to do so. This is what we call in the industry professional squatters, all right? These are, they're squatters like crackheads, and then there's professional squatters that actually look for vacant properties. It usually happens with an estate or, you know, someone who was the homeowner that is deceased, that didn't really have relatives or no one, you know, was around to pay attention to the property, hence why it became tax delinquent in the first place. And funny enough, I have an example that I've done this a lot. I've gone after adverse possessions. Little ninja trick on where to find this. I'll give you a hint. It's on the property appraiser. But I promise you, 99.9% of people don't even know it's there because it's so small and you have to know where to look to see that an adverse possession claim has been filed. Some of my biggest deals have been this. Through this adverse possession claim, I find an heir, we buy their interest, and then we file for a quiet title usually, or we just smoke the professional squatter. And you know, it happened yesterday. I got a call from a deed that I owned, I think over a year ago. I've owned the deed in Hialeah, Florida. No mortgage on it. Property's worth about $300,000 ARV. There's someone living inside of it. We're not sure if it's a tenant or the actual professional squatter. I'm going to say it's a tenant because I think they've been renting it. They've been paying property taxes, the professional squatter, for 8 years. And I get a call yesterday from an attorney, nonetheless, who was calling me personally, so he must have skip traced me. And the attorney was actually the father of the gentleman that filed the adverse possession, and I won't say any names. So it's very interesting that the attorney would end up there. You got to know what you're doing, and knowing what you're doing puts you in a driver's seat and in a position of power. So when he called me and he basically told me who he was, I didn't remember right away, but then I asked him about the property, and then I recalled the address, and I said, well, are you the one that's doing the adverse possession claim? And he was like, yeah, I am. Well, actually, my son is. And I said, well, that's great. You know, I have heirs that I bought the interest in, and we've obtained, you know, ownership that way. And then he asked me, well, did you do a probate? And I said, that's irrelevant. You know, did you finalize your adverse possession claim? Because he purported himself as, oh, well, I'm the owner. And then he said, well, my son's the owner. And then you have to know what questions to ask. And I said, well, did you file and complete the adverse possession claim or do a quiet title? And he said, well, no, not yet. I said, so you're not the owner. So you're paying and you're in the middle of an adverse possession claim. I'm technically the owner. He's like, yeah, well, I saw you got a deed from a distant heir. And I'm like, well, it's better than what you have. So anyway, I connected him with our attorney. Now they're negotiating back and forth. And my position is give me 200 grand and I'll walk away. You could still make 100. You've probably rented it and made money. So he knows he's up Shakes Creek without a paddle. And we know we're in the driver's seat. It's nice considering that we bought the deed for $3 grand. So a very, very true reverse flip deal on that one. Done that many a times in my career. I find them all the time. It's a very difficult, if not near impossible list to find. And you know what you're doing because you bang your head up against the wall a lot. But it is an amazing list to get. Very difficult, high degree of execution and high degree of skip tracing is required, and a very high degree of perseverance. But they are six-figure deals. Every single one of them has been a six-figure deal for me. Never had one that's less than a six-figure deal. And it's just an amazing strategy to use. I have an adverse possession. So there's a student in school. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a student in school that is asking really good questions. A high-level guy. I like this guy. I have an adverse possession that I cannot make sense of. Let me know what you think is going on. Owner had it quitclaim deeded to him in 2015. Owner then quitclaim deeded it to himself and 3 others. So it went from 1 person to 4 now. In 2016, then owner plus the 3 others quitclaim deeded it to the owner's name living trust in 2022. Weird shit going on here. Whenever I see 3 or 4 or 5 deeds in a period of years, it's always it's a little red flag for me, and I like it because it's already a good lead. Because why are people doing quitclaim deeds and not regular closings, right? In all 3 quitclaim deeds, everyone involved had the subject address listed as their address. They're probably living in it. But the kicker is, and here it goes, that the owner's name living trust filed an adverse possession on the subject property. I assume that who has filed it, as I haven't seen the adverse possession doc, but the trust paid 2022, 2023, and 2024 taxes. Owner had paid them from 2014 to 2021. Listen, here's the deal. I already like this, and I'll tell you why. So this is in Florida. The law states in Florida that it needs to be, an adverse possession claim needs to be done by an individual, not by any other entity. I'm not an attorney, but I've certainly paid enough in my career. I'm almost certain that you cannot do this under a trust. It would be a very rare exception. You also have to live in the property. That's part of the adverse possession claim. You have to be able to prove that you were living within the property. You can't rent it and do this because that'll void your claim. Why would someone file the adverse possession claim on their own property? Does payment of taxes equal the person that filed? Is there a doc somewhere that we can see who filed AP, adverse possession? This is a phenomenal question, and I have the answer. So I don't think that the owners filed the adverse possession. I think that they originally got those quitclaim deeds probably in some shady way or some fraud. That's typically what I've seen in my career. 1. 2, they're doing the adverse possession claim because they don't want to do a probate, or they don't want to do it another way because there must be a reason why they're not doing it, right? So that's shady, and they probably did something illegal in the first place. They're trying to pull a fast one, but I'm going to come in with this JV and smoke them, because that's what we do. We just smoke them. We might as well be a barbecue house because we just smoke people left and right. You can find this document if, number 1, you can go to property appraiser or the tax collector. It's a very difficult process. It's manual. You can call. You can try to find that. Or you can go online, and if they did it right, there should have been an adverse possession claim filed, and that document should be recorded. That's how it should be done. That's one way. Another way is if they filed a quiet title action lawsuit or in a probate, that document would be inside the documents or the complaint. So that's the way that you can do it, and then you'd reverse engineer it. It is 100% of the time that the person who paid the property taxes, which, by the way, another little ninja trick for skip tracing here, you grab the property tax paid bill, and at the top of it, really small little letters, it says paid by. So whenever you see a bank or something, that means that there's a mortgage on it because they're escrowing taxes because they don't want it to go to tax auction. Because if it sells at tax auction, they're second position and the mortgage gets wiped. That's also known as zombie foreclosure. That's a story for another time. But if it's a person, so let's put it this way. If you have a tax bill and it says John Smith, paid by John Smith, and Will Dennis is the owner on title of that property, you got yourself a freaking banger lead in that regard. Because why is somebody different paying the taxes, right, with an adverse possession claim? So you could work it backwards or you could work it forwards. It doesn't matter, but that's always a really good indicator. And that person on the bill is who you should speak to at some point. But the title holder is the person that you should speak to. If they are deceased, look for a probate. If there is no probate, then look for their heirs and work it backwards that way. There's only one other person who knows how to do this. And the kid is clocking in $5 million a year in Miami-Dade County alone. He's only doing this. He's only following this process. So he was wholesaling before this, by the way. He ain't wholesaling no more.